Between the Oakland Raiders and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Super Bowl 37.
Run there! We're world champs, baby! Give me that! Give me that!
They come to captain of the shit. Cannons like the loaded, so it's time to flip the script. Cruising through the bay on that Buccaneer battleship, sold up, screaming out, so buck what you heard. So buck what you heard. So buck what you heard. So buck what you heard.
Welcome to another edition of Buck What You Heard. My name is Gene. You can reach me at Buck What You Heard. You follow me, I'll follow you back. And I'm joined by my co-host, Michael Pless. How are you doing tonight, Michael?
Doing great, Gene. It's glad to be back on. Finally, the season is here. I mean, we're only days away. We have the kickoff tomorrow with, the season, and then Sunday, Buccaneers and 49ers. Just excited to be going back to Raymond James Stadium. Mark and myself will be there at the game, so just very excited to take part in another season of Buccaneers football.
Yeah, man, I'm just as excited as you are, man. This has been a long time coming. I'm ready to get this thing going, and it's just it's long overdue. So just thinking about the game and all the different scenarios we have going on here, I think the big thing for me is watching Kwon Alexander on the other side of the ball. It's one of the more interesting talking points when we want to talk about, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We'll finally get to see that Bruce Arians offense and Todd Bowles defense, as well as some of the other players who've been injured throughout camp that are going to make their debut. So what are some of the things that you're actually looking for?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good storylines. I mean, you mentioned it there with Kwon Alexander coming back, and then, obviously for the Bucs, it's Bruce Arians and this coaching staff and Todd Bowles and, what they're going to be able to bring. Really I'm looking for is how we attack these matchups that I think are going to be presented. How do we take advantage of the weaknesses that San Francisco has? But also, how do we game plan to hide, there's certain weaknesses that we have. Obviously, offensive line is a question mark, and then you look at our young secondary. So how do we, game plan to hide those deficiencies so the Buccaneers can be successful?
Yeah, I really right now, I don't know what this team is going to look like on offense or defense. So this is one of those games that I kind of, yeah. And this is one of those games I kind of have to sit back and see what happens, because I've heard a lot of people talking about how bad the offensive line is going to be, missing players on defense, and the running game is going to be horrible. And these are things from people who have no idea what this defense or what this coaching staff is going to do. And I totally understand that, when you consider all the letdowns that Bucs fans have had over the past decade, it's definitely understandable that people feel the way they do about this team right now.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we've been through a lot. I mean, this Bucs team has been just bad over the last 11 years. So it's just obvious to, think of the negative and think of the worst. And, we've had so many times where we thought they were going to be good and then they let us down. So, I can totally understand where the fans are coming from. But, at the same time, you look at this team, I think there's a lot of things we just haven't seen yet. And I think it's an advantage if you look at it from that standpoint, because opposing teams, they don't know what we're going to bring out there. They don't know how we're going to be presented. Defensively or offensively, maybe a little more so offensively is a little bit of the same, but defensively, I mean, teams haven't seen what this defense is going to be like. So I think that presents a advantage, especially going up against the 49ers, who this team played last year, and it's pretty much for the same, it's the same team for both sides. Obviously they made a couple additions on both sides. Each team has, but for the most part, it's pretty much the same for San Francisco as far as coaching staff. They're pretty much going to run what they know to run. And, with the Bucks, you really don't know how this offense is going to be presented or the defense because you have different coordinators with this personnel now. So that's exciting. I think that's where you have one edge going into Sunday. But yeah, I look at it this way. I'm going to be optimistic until it's time to hit the panic button. It's just have no fear. Just go in there and enjoy. And this team can really do a lot of good things. They have the potential there to put it all together. It's just about execution.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's probably one of the most important things is, the coaches have given a lot of players a do-over. MJ Stewart, for example, I know Carlton Davis caught a lot of heat last year. And, fans were pretty much writing a lot of these guys off. And, Bruce Arians looked at the film and he's decided, okay, let's see what you guys can do under this new defense. And I think we as fans, you kind of have to realistically come in and look at this team as a brand new team, just because the scheme is totally different on defense and offense. And you've got some key players that you didn't have last year, and you have other players that are being used in a different capacity. You will have other players used in a different capacity than what they were used with the previous coaching staff.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're going to see players be used to their strengths. I think, and that's what I'm looking forward to most is like how does this coaching staff adjust to what, San Francisco is presenting, and how do they attack mismatches that they clearly have when you look at, like OJ Howard going up against their linebacking core, or, defensively, how do they attack their offensive line that is suspect inside, do they, obviously with Vita Vea and Ndamukong Suh up the middle, how do they create pressure off of that with blitzes and et cetera? So those are the little things that I'm going to be looking for. And it's going to be exciting to see how it plays out throughout the game.
Yeah. And the one thing, we can go back to last year, and you saw how hot the Bucs started out, and, they've kind of tapered off. I don't expect that this year. And maybe I'm wrong in saying that, but I'm going to go on record. I haven't made any hot takes this year, but this will be one of them, that this team will be greatly improved, and this team will go out there and win. They will win games that they're not supposed to win. Based on what I've seen, I believe that is going to be the case this year.
Yeah, for sure. And I try to tell, fans that I interact with, or, just on this show or on my podcast, Real Bucs Talk, it's a week to week league. Everything changes from week to week. You could start 6-0, but you're not guaranteed to make the playoffs. I mean, you look at, a few years back when Josh McDaniels coached the Denver Broncos. I mean, they started off red hot at 6-0 and they missed the playoffs. So it's week to week. I mean, you got to take it one game at a time. Anything can change the season, whether it's injury or, just something goes the wrong way. You don't get the right bounces. So that's really what it comes down to. Usually, the team that wins the Super Bowl, it's the one that's just going right at the right time, getting that spark needed towards the end of the year.
Yeah, and on top of that, you get play from both your offense and your defensive side of the ball. And I hate to keep bringing up New England, but they're a prime example of a team that everybody had them written off at the beginning of last year, and yet they played collectively on offense and defensive side of the ball. It wasn't top tier, but they stayed steady and consistent, and they made it on through, and they won and they made plays when they needed to make them. So, it's definitely doable. I know it's more than doable. I believe that this team can go out there and make some big noise.
Yeah, I look at it two things. I believe in this coaching staff. I think you do as well. And then you look at Jameis Winston. We're huge fans of him. I mean, you have this shirt on tonight. I believe in him 100%. So I think I think this is his time to really take that next step. I think he finally got the wake up call that he needed last year, with the benching and with him, looking over his shoulder with Ryan Fitzpatrick and really understanding how, valuable each game is and how you can't take it for granted. So I just think he's got that, the look in his eye, and I think he's going to be really good this year. And you're going to see a different Jameis Winston that's going to really surprise some fans that haven't been all in on the guy.
Yeah, I think the one thing that stood out to me, and I know it's only preseason, so I know somebody's going to eventually say it, but how he did with when he was under pressure, no turnovers all preseason. I thought that was very important because we've seen Jameis Winston in the past where he'll test a defense to see if he can put a ball in a tight window, or he'll try to make a play with his legs when he should just eat the sack and just get another down and play the field position battle. So I think these are little glimpses that I think are going to carry into the regular season. There were times where Jameis Winston would have gotten frustrated and tried to force plays, and we didn't see that. So I think with the defense contributing a little bit more than what we've seen in the past, I think that's going to be very beneficial for this team moving forward.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he talked about it today, getting the ball out quicker, understanding, when to go for it and when not to. It's just a balance of understanding, game situation. If you pretty much got to let the game come to you, and I think that's what he's doing much better job of, and not forcing the issue. Obviously you want to be aggressive, but you have to be aggressive at the right times. But yeah, I'm really excited about that. But, really it's just, how are they going to attack this 49ers defense? Their front seven is probably their strength. Getting back to Quan Alexander, I think he is now playing outside linebacker now. He's not really a middle linebacker. They moved him to weak side, or they sometimes play him on strong side. So
yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah, they have Fred Warner, who's their middle linebacker, who's a solid player. I'm not sure who's on the other side that they play. Might be another rookie. I think it's Al Shahir or another guy that plays alongside them. But, Quan, I would, if I'm the Buccaneers, I'm attacking Quan every time I can, whether that's in the run game or in the passing game with running backs, etc. Because he's coming off an ACL. I would want to test him and see what you can get, take advantage of.
Yeah, especially the passing game. I think that is something that he was continuously working on. There were times where he was a liability in the pass game, and he makes up for it with just athleticism. But when you look at his overall game and his body of work here in Tampa, there were a lot of times where he was that liability in pass coverage. So that would definitely be something to consider. All Hands Galley had an interesting question. He was talking about the punter Pinion, and me personally, I think that Cleveland's line was just getting through the offensive line and putting pressure on Pinion, and they were bringing the house every fourth down, and there should have been some roughing the kicker penalties in there, but it didn't happen. I don't see him as being a problem. I think that he'll be just fine this year. I just think that particular game, they were just bringing the wood, and he was kind of shaken by it, and that's why you had those short fields that the defense had to work against.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think he was working on some things in preseason with directional punting, so he was trying to aim some punts, towards the sidelines and working on that. I thought he had a really good game against Dallas the last game, so. Yeah, I'm not worried about, Bradley. I think he'll be fine. I'm sure he'll put on a good performance, especially this week against his former team. So, yeah, I don't have an issue with the punter.
Yeah, and I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about the depth chart. I was on Buccaneers.com looking at the depth chart. And the one thing that I know that people have been kind of questioning in the offseason has been the running game. And there were some players that the Bucs have passed on, and people were losing their minds and wanting to jump out of windows and, be on suicide watch and all that other good stuff. But I really don't believe – I think the Bucs are happy with who they have in camp right now. And I was going to see what are your thoughts? I mean, as far as, who they have. They do have Peyton Barber, of course, and then you have Daria Gumbawale. And, just the running backs that they have right now, and they brought in TJ Logan. And, the running backs that they have, are you comfortable with the running backs that the Bucks have right now in camp?
Yeah, I like the running back group. I think Dare has a lot of upside that he could eventually become the number one back if he keeps pushing the way he has. I just think his tools, he's got everything you want in a running back. I think Peyton Barber is steady, and I think he's going to continue to get better as well if he gets the opportunities that he just didn't get last year. I think he can be a really good running back. Rojo, I think, is going to be that explosive type of back, but he still needs to work on some things. A little bit of vision here and there when he goes outside, and then also needs to work on his pass protection. And obviously, route running can be a little bit sharper. So I like the group. I like the potential. TJ Logan, I think, could be a weapon down later in the season just because of his speed and his ability to catch the football. But I think right now he's going to be your kickoff returner, and hopefully he can provide some spark back there because they need it. I mean, they need special team spark. So
yeah, most definitely.
That will help. But yeah, the running back group I'm happy with. I know a lot of fans, over the last weekend were talking about Melvin Gordon. That's just not going to happen. You're not going to see this team overpay for running backs. They haven't done it. Yes, they did give Doug Martin, $7 million, but they're just not going to go any higher than that. They're going to draft running backs or they're going to develop the guys that they have. That's just the way they have to do it.
Yeah, and with Melvin Gordon, you don't have 2 full seasons of game film on him, 2 complete seasons of game film. That's just what his injury situation has been like. And that's a huge risk right there if you bring somebody like that with his injuries. I know that he could be beneficial. I know he's a dynamic runner, but at the same time, all it takes is that one play, and he's on the sidelines and he's not helping his team. So, like you, I'm happy with who they have right now. Let's see, this is who we're riding with going into the season, and I think that they will be able to, with the right coaching and play calling and offensive line play, I think they can be beneficial to this team.
Yeah, I'll add one more point to that. I think the offensive line blocking scheme, I think, is really going to help the running game. The new run blocking scheme, just the way they block in cohesion now, it's more of, okay, we're going to double this guy, then we're going to have one guy come down and down block. So it just does a better job of opening up holes for them, and it makes it easier on the running backs to really follow their blockers. So I think it's going to be a better execution from that standpoint, just based off the scheme, because there's actual movement being created or space being created instead of just, hey, block your man and see if you can make something happen. So it's more organized from what I can see.
Yeah, and kind of looking at the final 53-man roster, I know another position that we heard a lot about in the offseason from the last whistle of the last game of the season till now is the secondary. When you look at this Bucs secondary, how do you compare them? How do they look to you, or do you think that they're ready for this season and that long stretch of games and possibly being competitive throughout the season?
Yeah, I mean, it's still wait and see. Obviously, they looked much better in the preseason. They got a lot more hands on footballs, which was nice. But, I mean, we just got to wait and see how they do because regular season's a different animal. We got to hope that, VH3 steps up, his game, and Carlton Davis, same thing. MJ Stewart has a big responsibility in the slot. He's going to be tested this week with, San Francisco using like Dante Pettis and Marquise Goodwin on the outside. He's got a lot of speed, so they're going to have to do a good job of mixing up coverages and doing understanding who's on the field and what the matchups are, and really try to take advantage of when they do blitz, they have to be aware of what's going on around them so they can make plays on the football. So that's going to be important, just seeing how these guys communicate. I think it's been a lot better. Jordan Whitehead, I think, has played outstanding. You're getting Mike Edwards back, who is, still a rookie. So you have 2 young safeties back there. And hopefully, these guys can all be on the same page like they've shown in the preseason. So, it's better, and I'm more confident in that group, which is good. But we still have to just wait and see, how is this pressure going to really help them, or is pressure and coverage going to work together? That's the big thing.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's going to be very important too. I think again,
and tackling as well. Tackling is a big key.
Yes, and you saw that play out in the preseason. I don't care what game you watched. There was always that one play where you've got a running back or a bubble screen that you can blow up, and you've got somebody 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage. They end up breaking a tackle, or somebody misses a tackle, and it ends up being a 15, 20-yard gain. And
Right.
that's what it kind of hurt the Bucks. That's what it actually hurt the Bucks a lot last year. Let me just be honest here. And it's something that it looks like they've kind of cleaned that up in tackles, and especially stopping the run. That's going to be huge. Stopping the run. It's something that we haven't seen a lot of from this defense over the past couple of seasons. So again, it's going to be really exciting to see that.
Yeah, stopping the run is going to be a big focus this week, especially against San Francisco, because Jimmy Garoppolo coming back off the ACL, so they're going to try to run the football and really get that that play action with the bootleg, and get him moving outside the pocket. So it's important that the Bucs defense maintains their gap control, maintains their edge presence as well, because San Francisco does a lot of misdirection where they have a lot of guys moving pre-snap. So it can cause some confusion if you're not in the right spots. So
yeah, and you just have to be disciplined.
Yeah, they have to be disciplined, and tackling is going to be huge. One-on-one tackling, they're going to have to make it happen. And hopefully they can gain tackle when the ball is thrown out in space, because that's going to be important, because San Francisco, that's what they do. They throw a lot of short passes, and they can make people miss and get yards after the catch. They will take occasional shots down the field, but it's not really often. It's a lot of getting guys in short spaces and then dumping it off and see what they can do. George Kittle, the tight end, he does that quite often, where they just have him motion across, and he's usually open on a flat route or something like that, and he can just run after the catch. So it's really important that they're communicating and they're staying on top of where these guys are going, and making sure guys are covered.
Yeah, there you go. Perry Matthews was asking, who do you think will emerge as a surprise standout on defense and offense? I don't know. That for me, I guess on. Let's see, who would I'm trying to think. I've been looking at Carl Nassib. Carl Nassib is somebody that I've been continuously watching. I know that he's up for a big contract pretty soon, and you have a lot of guys on that defense that are playing those 1-year prove-it deals. Shaquille Barrett could sneak out and be that guy that has a breakout season. Carl Nassib, another guy again that could be playing for a big paycheck. And these are guys that you would definitely look at on defense. Who do you Deion Buchanan, another guy that could potentially be that big timer as well.
Yeah, I mean, my guy on defense is Jordan Whitehead. I think he's going to have an outstanding year. He's just showing up every game so far, and I think he's going to continue to do that in the regular season. Offensively, surprise. I'm going to say. I'm going to go with the running backs. I'm going to say Ronald Jones is going to really have a good year. I think he's going to break out and surprise some folks.
Yeah, definitely. I've seen some nice things out of him, and I feel like he's rededicated. I don't know. It's like almost like a redshirt year for him last year, where they just weren't committed. The Bucs were not committed to the run, and so he really didn't get the opportunity to really grow in the NFL. Last year. I think this is a reboot for him, and I think he's like you said, he can make the most of the opportunities that he'll get.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if I was going to change, if I can change that, actually, the surprise needs to be the offensive line. Like if the offensive line can just play up to their potential, Alex Kappa can step it up. I mean, I think that would probably be the biggest surprise if this offensive line plays above average, which I think they're capable of doing. If they can do that, then this team can go places this year.
And again, it's about playing as a unit. It's not about individual players. And I think that's what gets missed in the criticism against the offensive line is seeing the line playing as a whole unit. And I think you almost have to go back to when Donald Penn was here, where you actually saw that something similar to that. I can't say that was even good then, but back when he was playing, and that unit that they had did pretty good playing as a unit, where they finally started to gel and work together.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely.
And sorry, I'm looking through the chat here. There was we asked that. And our tackling was much better this preseason, hoping it carries over into the regular season. And once again, that's all hands galley. Got to play good defense. You know what? Matthew Kitchell was saying, got to play good defense. Offense will struggle. I don't agree with that. I mean, when you look at what they had on offense last year, and I know they lost Adam Humphries, and I know they lost Deshaun Jackson, but I think with the emergence of Chris Godwin getting more playing time and showing that he can be a number one receiver, I think the offense is going to be just fine. OJ Howard is 100% healthy. If he can stay healthy throughout the year, that's a problem for a lot of people. And then we haven't even talked about Cameron Brate, who's coming up off of the injury, and I think he'll be ready to go as well. I mean, you have a lot of different weapons, and we haven't even talked about Tanner Hudson, who could potentially do something with this team. And, injuries will occur, and, he will more than likely get the opportunity to do something at some point in time in the season.
Yeah, I mean, talked about it earlier in the show. Offensively, it's just like that's going to be the big thing. Like, how can they counteract what San Francisco is throwing at them defensively? San Francisco's got a good front four. That's probably their strength of their team.
Right.
That's the big discussion. It's their D line versus our offensive line, and how can the Bucs, game plan or scheme around that, and can they get Jameis Winston to throw the ball quick, or get routes, use the short passing game pretty much to get him going, and then you can utilize the running game as well, and then get that play action involved, and just try to create some balance there, but also keep San Francisco off balance to say, and really see what you can do as far as attacking their weaknesses, which is the secondary. Which plays to your strengths, because you have great receivers, and you got a good tight end core. So, how do you go about getting those guys the football and making sure they can go out there and make plays?
Yeah, it's got to be balanced. I mean, that's very important as well. Ken F made a great comment too, and I keep forgetting about Jamel Dean, and he was talking about Jamel Dean being a player to watch for in the secondary, just with his size. And I know that he got beat on a couple of plays, but I like how he was able to bounce back and make plays. So he's somebody that I'm going to be watching for as well. And you really hope that he can make those jumps to just get better as the season progresses. So he's another player. Yeah, another player that I would have to say that I'll be definitely watching as well.
Yeah, Dean is like a creative player on Madden. I think I've said that before. Just the way his size is. So, I mean, there's not many humans that are built like this guy. So, for him, I think, you'll definitely see him probably early in the season, maybe even this Sunday, get on the field, because he is a problem when he's locked up, man-to-man press coverage. Just with his size, he can present a lot of challenges for the receiver. And I like how he's able to, keep his eyes back on the ball, while he
looks for the ball.
Right. So, I mean, he's got a lot of upside. Now we just got to hope, Sean Murphy Bunting can, take that next step and get on the same level as well and continue to get better, because those two guys really have a lot of potential that could be really good for the future. But it'll be interesting to see how they rotate and utilize all these guys that they have defensively.
Yeah. And All Hands Galley was saying our tackling is much better this preseason. Hope it carries into the regular season. I was real happy with the way they were with the Bucs defense stopping the run. And you just, again, that's one of those things you hope that they can key in on that and make a team one dimensional, and make a team have to use creativity to make plays, and force the quarterback to do what he's supposed to do. So I really am looking forward to this defense. The mystery is almost over. We can actually see this defense and see what it's going to be capable of doing.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's definitely got a lot of praise from, former Buccaneers. I've heard, Derek Brooks and Warren Sapp, even Rondé Barber talking about the Todd Bowles defense, and how, exciting it is and how it can confuse quarterbacks and really emphasize the strengths of the players on defense, which is exciting. So, yeah, I need to, see it fully unveiled and really get an idea of how these guys are going to be playing.
Yeah. And then, we haven't even talked about the linebacker core when you got Jack Sitchie, you've got Lavonte David and Kevin Minter playing an inside linebacker. That's, those are three underrated players, in my opinion. I can't really include Jack Sitchie, but Kevin Minter has been consistent playing on that awful defense last year. He was still consistent. And then Lavonte David, we all know about Lavonte David, and, he never gets the love that he really deserves, as, whether it's statistically or just plays that jump out at you that he continues to make. So I'm really excited about the linebacker core. And I remember a couple of years ago when we were looking at the linebacker core at the beginning of the season, and then you had all those injuries, and then they kind of exposed the limited depth at the linebacker core. But I think that they've gone out and they've made some good moves in the offseason to kind of shore up that linebacker core, and I think they could potentially be a strength on this defense as well.
Yeah, the linebacker core I'm really happy with. Especially you got the outside linebackers, obviously, that are going to be your pass rushers or extra down linemen. Mm-hmm. And then that inside linebacker core, you have a lot of good players. I mean, Lavonte David leads that group, and then you have Devin White, he's got a lot of potential. Then you have Kevin Minter, like you said, Deion Buchanan, and Jack Sitchie. So all those guys really excited with, and I'm really interested to see how they're going to use Buchanan this Sunday, because I think he can be a mismatch type of guy or a matchup type player that you can use on George Kittle or running backs, etc.
Can he really play safety too, or am I?
Yeah, they said that he could play as a rotational safety, which he might have to this week. Just because of Justin Evans, and he might not play this week. So, it'll be interesting. They have, Whitehead, Edwards, and Darian Stewart, who are probably going to play the majority of the safety. But if one of those guys get hurt, or has to come out, you could see Buchanan in there. But I think they'll use Buchanan as like an extra linebacker next to Lavonte and Devin White. But you can use Buchanan as like a nickel type guy, that can take one of those guys out, against the opposing offense.
Yeah, and I did want to talk about Devin White, because I've been hearing people, and this is why I've kind of stayed away from social media. People are already writing off Devin White, and right. It's just unbelievable. But there are actually people out there that are, I think it more or less is their guy wasn't drafted, and they really didn't get to see a lot of him. So that's where this all stems from. But at the same time, I don't think that we've seen anything. I think they haven't shown anything of him, and I don't know if that's intentional. So it'll be great to get to see him on the field and see what he's capable of doing. I'm really excited about his cover skills, and I really hope that this is something that he's able to do, because that's been kind of a problem with linebackers is coverage, where they've been exposed at times.
Yeah, no doubt. And going back to your point about we haven't really seen Devin White, I think, that goes back to they just really don't want to show him, what they're going to do with him, right now as far as packages go. I think they have probably a few packages that are just designed for Devin White, and I think you'll probably see that this Sunday where, they can really utilize his speed and what they're going to be able to do with him. And you also have to remember the guy is a rookie. He is learning this defense. He is calling the plays, making sure guys are set up the right way, communication, across the front seven. So I think he did a really good job of doing that, being a leader. So now it's just about, not thinking as much and playing faster. And I think he's really going to start doing that. And I think that's why, they really haven't asked him to do much. And I don't expect him to ask him to do too much in the regular season. Obviously, calling plays, but as far as just attacking the football, I think they're going to keep it simple for him.
Yeah, and there's one thing that I will say, and I've always believed this. I had a friend of mine who was a scout, an actual NFL scout, and he always said that you do a disservice to players when you're judging them in their first season instead of giving them 3 seasons to show what they're capable of doing, because you have the first year, which is the rookie year, and then you have sometimes a sophomore slump where you can potentially see regression, and then that third season is where you really get to see what you have in a player. So if you do get productivity out of a player his rookie year, his sophomore year, that's a plus. That's an added bonus. But you really, to me, I think people overreact. I mean, we live in a microwave society, I understand, and you want that right now. But at the end of the day, I really believe that, what you're going to see from him, I think he will be able to go out there and make plays, and, he will help this team.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. I mean, you said it. I mean, everyone wants instant status. What am I trying to say?
Gratification.
Yeah. They just want instant now results. I mean, it's just the way we live. That's our society, like you said. So, yeah, I don't have a problem with Devin. I think he's going to be just fine, especially with Levante coming back. That's gonna help him out tremendously.
Yeah, absolutely. Somebody was asking about Vita.
That's what I was trying to say.
Somebody was asking about Vita Vea. Do you think they're rushing him back from the injury that he had, or I mean,
No.
you kind of have to trust your staff. I think it's good that they held him out as long as they did, because you want him at 100%. And, this is going to be a long season, so it's going to be very important. But, again, players are human beings. I would want to hold him out and have him to where he's 100% healthy and he can go out and do what he needs to do, rather than risking that injury. So, you kind of have to trust in your staff again. But, no, I was just kind of wondering, do you think that he's on schedule to come back the way he to where he is right now, showing up for game 1?
Yeah, I think, if they don't think he's ready, then he's not going to play.
Right.
I think, looking at the injury, it was an LCL sprain, and really you can't suffer that again once you have it. So I don't think he's not gonna make it any worse. I think there's no pain in the knee right now. At least that's what I've heard from him as far as Vita, and that's a good thing. So yeah, I think he'll be fine. He might be wearing a brace, but I think he'll be good to go.
Yeah. What All Hands was saying, 4 to 8 weeks recovery, so he is on track, or 4 to 6. Mm-hmm. 4 to 6 is what he was saying. So yeah, so it looks like he's right within that realm of getting back. Another person that could potentially be coming back is JPP, where he's starting to practice, and it looks like his recovery is on track as well. And again, here's a guy that, he had this neck injury, and, as fans, we don't know what his recovery time is going to be. We don't know how he's going to heal. We don't know, a whole lot about his whole situation. So I'm just hoping that when he comes back, he's 100% and they're not bringing him back too soon. And if they need to shut him down, then, hey, they need to shut him down. And you just kind of have to go with what you need, because I think that's very important as well.
Yeah, for sure. He's rehabbing now, and that's a good sign. So, really it's just about getting mobility back into that neck. And then once you get that mobility and flexibility, then you can start strengthening it. So I think he's right on track. Obviously, he's going to miss the first 6 games. Then week 7 is your bye week. So I could imagine him being back either week 8 or week 9. I can really see that, as long as everything goes well with the rehab, he doesn't have any setbacks.
And that's the concern right there.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think he's right on schedule. And the guy heals so quickly, and he's very determined. So that's why I'm so confident, because it is JPP. If it was someone else, then I would say they're probably not coming back this year. But since it's Pierre-Paul, and the injuries that he's already overcome in his career, especially with losing, 2 fingers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have no doubt that he'll be back some point this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And, speaking of injury, I know you heard about Kendall Beckwith. I think we may have touched on it a little bit off camera, but it's really sad to hear about that. At the end of the day, I hope that, his career away from football will allow him to have a healthy life, because, I mean, that's, to me, the most important thing. Yeah, football is nice. We talk about football. We are fanatics. We root for our team. But at the end of the day, you have these guys that, there's life outside of football for them. And you really hope that, if he doesn't come back, that he can at least have some sort of healthy life, as he moves forward.
Yeah, I would like to see, the Bucks probably make him, part of the organization somehow, whether it be in, front office or, whether it be coaching or something. I don't know if that's something he would like to do, but it would just be cool to see him at least stay with the organization going forward in some capacity. But yeah, it's really tough that, he has to call it, a career after such a short time, and really on a freak accident that happened. And that's just, it's a shame. But yeah, because he was so good, a very talented player, probably was going to be the starting middle linebacker this season if he was healthy, if he never got hurt. He would have taken over for Quan, and then Quan, obviously left, and then we probably don't draft, Devin White. But again, that's
what if?
That's playing 2020, and
yeah.
But yeah, I wish the kid the best of luck, and I hope he can, like you said, just really have a healthy life, and this doesn't affect him any way going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's kind of, that's been my thought process. It hasn't been so much, oh man, I hope he hurries up and comes back, and you're more mad that he's hurt. No, yeah. I would rather him be healthy, and if he comes back 100%, that's great. If he can't go, I mean, it's important that you walk away from the game with some semblance of health. I mean, there are so many players out there.
It's the same with Andrew Luck. I mean, just his whole situation, and I respect the guy for what he did, walking away, and I completely understand. I mean, he was just tired of being on the injury list and being in rehab pretty much his whole career.
Right.
That takes a toll on players, and people forget, fans forget, like, these guys are human beings. They're just like us, and I respect him for what he did. I know that was incredibly difficult because he was really at the top of his game when he was out on the field, and their team was poised to make probably, contend for a Super Bowl this year.
Yeah. You know what? And it pisses me off. I heard some of the comments. I've heard people talk about, why did he quit now? Why did he wait till the middle of the season? The guy tried to go. And he got injured again. He did not want to go through another rehab. Okay, when you have a lacerated freaking kidney, and which is not normal for the NFL, but he rehabbed from that. He came back and he tried to play again. Shoulder injuries, concussions, and this guy continuously came back. And I can tell you right now, I had tendonitis in my elbow, and I whine like a little girl sometimes because of tendonitis. So I cannot even remotely imagine what he's had to go through with a calf injury, with a shoulder injury. And he played hurt a lot, the concussions. And again, somebody out here, some fan out here decides that his viewing the game, his favorite team is more important in this guy's life. Get out of here with that. That is ridiculous.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, it's the same with, like, you look at Barry Sanders and how he went out. I mean, the guy was just tired of getting beat up, and plus being on a pretty much a losing team for most of his career, and that stuff just adds up. I mean, and it's more important to have a life after football, because football is not everything. You can't play this game forever.
No.
So, you got to have something after football. And I think a lot of people, forget to look at that. Not everyone's built like Brett Favre, who played, almost, I don't know how many seasons he played, but a lot, and played through multiple injuries to be on the field. And, just not everyone's built like that. I mean, and he's probably hurting right now, off the field. I'm sure he wakes up with pains, and I guess that goes for all football players. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah, look at Warren Sapp can't remember half the time. He can't remember where he's left his
Right.
phone, and he's got to leave himself reminders of where he's at. Scott Brantley, who to me was one of my favorite Buccaneers, I mean, he doesn't know where he is sometimes. He's that bad off. And we don't talk about these guys because they're not playing right now. And that's what frustrates me the most is people don't look past your football career. They look at what players are doing now, but they don't care about players outside of the game. And that to me is a real travesty for these guys that gave their heart and soul for the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, and you're seeing these retirements come more frequent now. You look at what Patrick Willis did. I mean, he was going through multiple injuries, during his career, and he decided, you know what, I'm just gonna walk away while I can walk away, and that's the big thing. Football, it's only a moment of their life. Like, there's so much more to it. Obviously, guys, they love the game for sure, but you gotta have something after football. You don't want to be in a wheelchair the rest of your life because you played through injuries. And
for
ended
for fans that don't really care about you after you're gone.
Right. Yep.
So
I agree.
So I'm going to get off my soapbox, but I just think that I really do believe that people need to look at the players more as human beings that are out here. They're playing a game they love, and you're supporting a team that you love. So there's benefit for both sides there. So and I'm sorry I didn't mean to go on a tangent, but it just frustrates me sometimes when I hear some of the idiotic comments that I do get to hear. I know we kind of talked about Vita Vea a little bit. What are your thoughts about Rakeem Nunez-Roches? Because he's a guy that made the team. Were you expecting him to make this team?
Yeah. Looking at the roster, I thought he would make it. And he really showed up during the preseason. And I think he's going to be a big contributor. I liked him last year. I thought he played really well once they got him on the team last year. So I think he just took another step forward, and it'll be interesting to see how they, rotate him in along with, Bo Allen, and then you have Golston, who looks like it's going to be the starter. So it'll be interesting to see how they play those guys.
So do you think that Will Golston is a good fit for this type of defense?
Yeah, definitely. I think this suits him best. I think he was always meant to be in this type of defense where he can, be aggressive and attack upfield, but at the same time, he's got that body type where he can take on blockers and really, cause havoc for running game, because that is his strength, is stopping the run. But also, it gives him more flexibility as far as what he can do as a player.
Yeah. So I did want to before we get out of here, I do want to ask you, what are your keys for the offense to scoring and helping to win this game against the 49ers?
Yeah, I look at two things. Obviously, I think they got to utilize the short passing game. That's going to be a big focal point. And then also, running the football at these defensive ends that San Francisco has. I think they should attack Dee Ford in the running game, attack Nick Bosa. So attack those guys in the running game and really get after it and stay committed to the run game. I think that's going to be huge. But if you can do those two things, if you can utilize the short passing game to really, slow down that pass rush a little bit, and then you can utilize, Jameis's strength, which is the play action. And I think that's where you can really attack the middle of the field with your tight ends, Cameron Brayton, O.J. Howard, against their linebackers who are suspect in coverage and not as good as far as covering guys like O.J. or Cam Brayton. So those things, I think, is something to look for. Defensively, obviously, number one, I think they have to stop the run. That's going to be a key every week. And then find ways to get after Jimmy Garoppolo, find ways to confuse him and disguise with coverage and blitzes and get, beat him up a little bit, and maybe you'll get some turnovers. I think that's going to be very important.
Yeah, there you go. I think my keys to the game, and I could be off. I rarely ever do this, but it's a regular season, so I'm excited. I'm going to give mine anyway. For me, is quick passes. Jameis Winston getting the ball out quickly and efficiently, and like you said, committing to the run. What we saw last year, where the Bucs were not committed to the run, but they were somewhat successful, tells me that if you call the right plays at the right time and you scheme correctly, that the offense, that this could be a weapon for the offense, the running game. I think you have some very capable running backs, and 3 running backs that can definitely get you that those extra yards, and they can be beneficial in the red zone. So I think that's going to be huge. And if the Bucs are up in the second half, being able to run the ball and control the clock is going to be very important. So to me, controlling that it's key to be committed to the run, like you said. Just making sure that they are able to do that, and not letting the other team's offense get back on the field by eating up that clock with the run. Mm-hmm. And go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, adding to that, it's important that they're efficient with the run game. So, if it is working, then obviously you want to keep mixing it in there with the passing game. Using that short passing game can be, pretty much a running game for you if you use it right. And, so I would like to see those two things, coincide and really do a good job of diverse and being, balance, but also keep the defense guessing with different formations, etc. So you want to see different type of runs. You don't want to see the same type of runs that you're presenting. So you really want to make sure you're presenting different looks, but also being efficient at the same time, if possible, because that's really the key.
Yeah, I think the one word that we can use for last year was predictability. Mm-hmm. And I do believe that you're looking at a totally different coaching staff, a coaching staff that's more modern, and they are in sync with what's going on in the NFL. And I don't expect to use that word a whole lot, predictability. I do expect to see plays spread out and putting themselves in a position to succeed. The one thing that we do want to mention are penalties. And yeah. I'm not so much worried about penalties. I'm worried about penalties at the wrong time. Mm-hmm. And I understand getting a personal foul, you're protecting your quarterback. I understand getting an offside where you're hungry to get to the quarterback. But if it negates an interception, if it negates a first down, those are the kind of penalties you don't want. So to me, I understand penalties. That's part of the NFL. But at the same time, it's when and where they occur. And that's going to be huge this year in the Bucs winning games.
Yeah, definitely. Discipline is going to be key. I think, both of these teams last year, they struggled with that, penalties. So that'll be definitely something to look for. But yeah, main thing, just to sum it all up, I just want to see them attack the mismatches that will be presented. And if they can do that consistently, I'll be happy with that, because we just haven't seen that from the past, where we were attacking mismatches all the time. And I would like to see that this Sunday, offense and defense.
Yeah.
There's advantages that, we just have, and hopefully we can take advantage of those.
Yeah, most definitely. And, for me, for defense, I think what's going to be important is keeping the ball in front of you. And communication is going to be huge for this new defense, as well as playing in your assignment. You have to worry about what you're doing and not worried about what's going on around you. As long as you're taking care of your assignment and every other player is doing the same thing collectively, you should be successful. When a scheme is laid out for you, plays are laid out for you, being able to execute those plays and do what's asked of you, I think is going to be very important as well. I mean, we talked about discipline, but we can't stress it enough. Discipline is going to be huge, because a missed tackle goes from a 5-yard loss to a 20-yard gain, and you just can't have that. The penalty, you get an interception and you've got a hands to the face penalty. I mean, that just sets your team back. So you just have to be as disciplined as possible. And we haven't even talked about special teams and how important discipline is going to be for special teams as well. I mean, the field position battle is going to be huge. You can't depend on the defense the whole game. You're going to need contribution from that special team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely agree. I'm just looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a good game for the Bucs. I think, you look at it, both of these teams are kind of in the same position going into this year. Both franchises want to take that next step forward and really get back into, being relevant and going after a playoff spot. So, big game. This is a game that the Bucs need to win. They got to start off, fast, and I think they have a great opportunity to be 1-0 after this weekend. And I'm excited to just see how it all plays out. I'm excited to be at Raymond James once again, so that's gonna be fun.
So, are there any games, just kind of before we jump off of here, throughout the schedule, looking at the schedule, any games you're like super excited about this season?
I always get pumped up for the division games, so I would say the next game coming up, the Carolina Panthers, I'm probably pretty excited about that one. But again, it's a one game at a time approach by me. So I'm most excited about this week. But yeah, any of the division games, I get really excited for those because those are probably the most important games because they count as 2 games. I mean, they count as 2 wins, I should say. So very, very important to take advantage of those matchups.
Yeah, most definitely, because at the end of the season, all these games count. So it's very important to get in there and make that kind of stuff happen. So, like I said, I'm excited for this game. The Panthers, both of the Panthers games are very exciting for me. I would have to say the Arizona Cardinals game is going to be exciting for me as well because unfortunately the Cardinals have beat the Bucs the last 2 times they played, which is very frustrating for me. Just considering that there's no way in hell they should have lost either one of those games. But I digress. I'm not gonna beat a dead horse that's already dead, and we'll just kind of move on here. So, I know you just dropped a podcast and you're looking to move to 2 podcasts a week. So, tell everybody about your podcast that, you and your co-host Mark have going on, Real Bucs Talk.
Yeah. At Real Bucs Talk, we got a podcast available on iTunes, Google Play, and Podbean. It's just something we started last year and excited to go into year 2. And, really looking forward to it. Me and my good co-host, Mark Ramirez, really just try to break it down and provide a different perspective. So hopefully we can do it. We got another one hopefully coming up this Friday. Really break down the 49ers matchup because that's what we love doing. That's, getting really into the X's and O's. That's kind of like our, I guess, trademark, you can say. That's what we enjoy, putting up game film up on Twitter and show different things. So we will probably have a lot of that, over the weekend before this game comes out. I put up some clips today of, the offensive line and Donovan Smith, and we'll just we'll see how it goes. But really excited to be doing all these podcasts. Buck What You Heard and Real Bucs Talk. So it's good times.
Yeah, most definitely. And I know somebody was asking about the link. If you're not following him, if not following Mike on Twitter, you can follow him at Real Bucs Talk. What I will do as soon as the podcast comes out, I'll put the link in the comments of this podcast just so you can go and follow it along as well once it gets released. So you guys can kind of come and check this out again if you want to listen to it again. And if you guys haven't subscribed yet, I really appreciate it if you can hit that like button, subscribe button, and check us out. We're back now. We have content to talk about. We have things to talk about. We're not guessing anymore, and we'll be back on here consistently on Wednesdays to talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We do Wednesdays. I thought about switching the times up, but Wednesdays work best only because game film is not available on Mondays. All 22 doesn't come available until Tuesday. Right. And, for me, games can be emotional. I don't like to come off of a game and then just go and talk about it when you haven't gone back and looked to see everything or as much as you can. So we chose I think that was originally why we chose Wednesdays, is because this gives me a chance to look at game film. It gives Mike and Mark a chance to look at game film as well and really kind of evaluate, what we saw. So that's kind of, why we chose this. But we will be ready Wednesdays, and, we'll try to get some other guests on here as well. But for the most part, it will be myself and Mike. If we can get Mark on, I know Mark is, he's unavailable a lot of the time, but there will be times where I will, try to goad him out to show up on here. But yeah, so we will be doing that as well. So I want to run through here one more time. Did anybody have any final questions before we jump off of here? And I'll go through the roll call of everybody that's been commenting, because there's a lot of comments tonight, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. I don't know. You're following everything right now, huh? You can see the chat too, right?
No, I don't have
okay.
it pulled up right now.
Oh, okay.
See if I can. I'll get
All
it
right.
pulled up here.
So I'm going to roll down here. Thank you. I want to thank everybody that has jumped in the chat, and you're appreciated. Matthew Kitchell, Rex Dillon, Perry Mathis, Travis Johnson, Prodby86, Gage Macias, as usual. Thank you, sir. Ken F., thank you for checking us out. All Hands Galley, as usual. I appreciate you being on. Ken Sarvis, Wes O'Connor. Let's see who. No, we don't want to talk about me. I've already. Kwame Richardson, thank you so much for checking us out. Your comments are always appreciated. Shooter and Stash, one of the best animators out there. If you're not following Shooter and Stash, they always come up with some stuff to get people with their feelings hurt. But if you can get past that, they're a lot of fun to follow. Bucks fan 727, as usual, you are always appreciated. Let's see, Brandon Fuller, longtime listener. What's going on, Brandon? Demand, thank you so much for coming in here and taking time to comment as well. Shedrick Anthony, as usual, thank you so much. You're appreciated as well. As he mentions here, he's excited about the game. He really hopes that the running backs have a good Sunday. I'm right there with you on that. So definitely something. Peyton Barber can run through you and will not run away from the defense. That's definitely true. I think that Peyton Barber doesn't get the love on the national stage or even on the local stage that he really deserves. So again, I hope he shows up and shows out what he can do. I think that's pretty much. I don't think I missed anybody. Oh, Andre Glenn. What's going on? Andre Glenn is out there, who really expects to see O.J. Howard have a good game. So that's another guy that you hope that he can stay healthy and be productive for this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team. Buccaneer Bruce, what's going on? Thank you for showing up. And TC Baby 1, who's talking about Brad Johnson. Here's another player that is dealing with pain outside of football. So a lot of examples out there. Eric Hardnett, what's going on, Eric? Thank you for joining us, and your comments are appreciated. And I think I may be at the end of the. So, yep, I think I go ahead.
They want a prediction.
Oh, they want a prediction. I think the Bucks are in the game. I think they'll win this game. I do think, not because of San Francisco, not because of anything other than I think you don't have film on this team. I think this team is going to go out and surprise people. I know a lot of people look at Jameis Winston in a negative fashion and don't think that he's going to be capable of really doing anything. But I think that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will win this game.
Yeah, I agree. Excuse me. Yeah, I agree with that. I think, if they want to score, I'm going to say 24-14. I think the defense is really going to show up, and I think that's going to be the difference maker. I think our defense is going to really ball out and put it to San Francisco.
Yeah. Kwame Richardson, one last question is really interesting. Do you have a biggest worry with this team? Would it be the offensive line or special teams or penalties?
Oh man, I'm not really worried. I'm not worried about the kicking game, to be honest. I think Matt Gay, showing the confidence that he's brought. I think I'm really excited about his upside. I think he's going to be fine. Penalties, I think we'll be okay there, just because of the accountability factor from this coaching staff. So obviously, the biggest concern to me is the offensive line. I mean, they're the X factor. They hold the keys to how well this team does. If they can be average to above average and just be consistent, this team can really do some dangerous things and really make noise going into this season.
Yeah, I'm with you, and I know we've talked about this in all season. If the offense and defense are playing together as a collective team, both doing their parts, they're going to be a problem for a lot of teams in the NFL that they have to face, and that's just what they have to do is just stay consistent and do that, and I believe that they're capable of doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially with the game planning and the scheming, that this coaching staff's going to do. I think they'll be okay. I think they're really going to make sure Jameis gets the ball out quickly. He's going to have options to do so, and they're going to run the football. Running the football helps everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And, when you look at this offense, I don't – and tell me if I'm wrong here. When you talk about Deshaun Jackson, I know Deshaun Jackson is gone. When Deshaun Jackson was here – I just don't remember him being that. I know he was a factor in you had to cover him because there's always a potential that he could get loose. But I look at this offense and the weapons that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have right now, and I just don't see a huge drop off from last year. And you have better coaching, and I don't know. I don't see the offense as a problem where I know a lot of people do.
Yeah, the big key is going to, they got to stay healthy. OJ Howard and Cam Brate, I think, is going to be a huge part of the offense. I mean, those are guys that, most defenses just can't cover because they're mismatches with their size. And I think that's going to be a huge focus point. Obviously, you have Mike Evans, who's going to get his, and then you have Chris Godwin, who's going to be a mismatch in the slot. So it's just about taking advantage of those, those guys that we have, and that comes down to offensive line providing some time for Jameis so he can get rid of the ball and just play smart football.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because we haven't even talked about Perriman. We've talked about all these other players. And when you have a team that's that dynamic that you forget about your third wide receiver, I mean, that right there speaks volumes about this team.
Yeah, I mean, all hands galley, Tommy, he makes a great point on Perriman. I mean, he's a bigger body for Jameis. He's got a bigger catch radius, so that's going to help Jameis out with the deep ball, making plays down the field. Again, it's just about taking the right moments to make that deep pass, making sure you're going deep at the right time.
Right.
Because, at times Jameis just hasn't done that. I think, obviously, the best, situation to go deep is on first down. You just like to see the right decisions being made, and I think he's going to do that this year.
All right. Well, that's pretty much it for us. I can't believe we've been on over an hour. That's crazy, just talking football. Yeah. Well, we will be back again this time next week to discuss the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the San Francisco 49ers and, kind of break down what we were seeing, from this team. And what we thought of the new offense and the new defense. And I think that'll be a really exciting show to check out. There are you have a lot of options out there of podcasts that you can check out. There's so many good ones. And I really appreciate you guys taking the time to check us out. And again, if you get a chance to check out Michael Pless and Real Bucks Talk, please take advantage of that and follow him on Twitter. You won't be disappointed. So let me get your final thoughts before we roll out of here.
Yeah, man, I'm excited for the weekend. More football, more sitting on the couch and enjoying, football. College football is awesome. So, and then, Bucks game on Sunday. Really excited to be at the stadium. So, anybody that sees me there, don't hesitate to say hi. Again, I'm bad with faces. I'll probably walk right by you if I do recognize you. It's one of those things. I'm just terrible in public, but yeah, it's gonna be fun. I'm really looking forward to it. It's gonna be hot, nice and steamy. So hopefully a good game by the Buccaneers.
Yeah, it's always an advantage for Tampa when you have that kind of weather.
Yeah.
And you're coming from San Francisco, you're coming here, and there, unless you've been in this, a lot of people aren't used to that humidity and that heat, and that sun. So it's gonna be, it's definitely gonna be a great game, and I'm looking forward to it. And for me, my final thoughts are, I appreciate that. We're collectively Bucs fans, and we want what's best for the Bucs. And to me, it doesn't matter who's at quarterback or who the coach is. If this team can win, I think that's what's the most important. And you get so many people that we've had all these different battles over, fan bases battling over this team, but at the end of the day, we just want this team to win. So no matter what happens, let's all get out there and enjoy this team all together. And, let's see some wins out here. And to me, all I got to say is go Bucs. And remember, buck what you heard. So we are out of here. And that's pretty much it for us. And we will be back here next Wednesday. Everybody take it easy.